First at 6, new video into the KSAT newsroom showing a San Antonio police officer arrested July 31st while on duty for driving while intoxicated.
So you can see from the body cam video that Officer Paul Fensick was asked by a fellow officer to have a field sobriety test done. It came about after an SAPD sergeant and lieutenant detected the odor of alcohol on him. Then a few minutes later, you see right here, Fensick is seen trying to walk in a straight line, but is stumbling a little. It was later determined that his blood alcohol content over 0.15, that is a Class A misdemeanor. Fensick has since been placed on administrative duty while SAPD is conducting a criminal and administrative investigation into his arrest. You better pay the parking meter. The city of San Antonio is talking about significant increases in fines. Yes, our Garrett Berger tells us a proposal to hike up some common parking fines on tens of thousands of tickets is also about sending more cash to the city.
To help plug a hole in the city budget, City of San Antonio staff say they're looking into metaphorical couch cushions. Well, some of the coins they found there are yours.
The city wants to raise fines for the top 10 parking violations by $20 each. Parking in a no parking zone, in front of a hydrant, too close to a crosswalk, or in a handicap spot you don't need. They would all cost more under the proposal.
If you raise the price, you're going to basically disincentivize people to come downtown and park.
And let's not forget the most popular violation, meters and pay stations.
That's a lot of money to a lot of people.
$47?
Yes.
Think that's too much for?
Yes, absolutely.
$52 if they parked here.
That's 2 steaks for sure.
Food-based cost comparisons aside, the bigger parking tickets are expected to net the city another $438,000.
If they're going to get an increase in their budget, where would the money go?
Well, it goes to the general fund, which helps pay for many basic services like libraries, parks, police, and fire. But the city faces a nearly $173 million shortfall in that part of the budget over the next 2 years. Raising fines and fees like these, along with budget cuts and moving money around, are part of the city staff's proposed solution. Not everyone's a fan.
But I mean, like all things, it's like cut spending. So I'm sure there's other areas in the budget that could be cut.
The fines haven't changed since 2009 either, though maybe not everyone realizes it.
Think that's fair, or how does that compare to, back home for you?
I don't know. I guess I would say I've never gotten a parking ticket, so I really don't have a frame of reference.
Some people are just too responsible.
Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
Okay, cool.
That's a good point. Well, parking tickets aren't the only fine or fee that could increase here in San Antonio. Others would include alarm permit and renewal fees for both homes and businesses, food inspection fees for restaurants. Even the fee for a petting zoo permit could go up. Altogether, the city expects the various increases to bring $3.7 million into the general fund next year. Well, meanwhile, the fate of more than 70 Guatemalan children remains undecided after the Trump administration tried to have them deported in the middle of the night over the holiday weekend. And some of those unaccompanied children were staying at a facility right here in San Antonio. The children were housed at Compass Connections. That's a facility contracted by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's off of Highway 90. Late Saturday night, authorities attempted to remove the children and bus them to Harlingen, where they would have been deported. Now, the plane sat on the tarmac for hours as attorneys worked to get a temporary restraining order.
We were notified late on Saturday night at approximately 11 p.m. that the facilities holding these children were given approximately 2 hours to have all of the Guatemalan children ready to be discharged so that immigration could disappear them to Guatemala in the dead of night on the middle of a holiday weekend. Now, the children ages 13 to 17 will now be allowed to stay in the United States for at least 2 weeks as their cases move through the legal system. The Trump administration says it was attempting to reunite these children with parents in Guatemala, but attorneys have disputed that claim. We now know the names of 5 San Antonio police officers who shot and killed a man on Friday. According to SAPD, the officers fired after that man pointed a shotgun at police. Officers Tyler Brown, Mark Trevino, Matthew Olivares, Joseph Orozco, and Stephen Flores are now on administrative duty until further notice. This all began Friday morning at a home on Cherry Street, just east of I-37 near North Hackberry. Police Chief William McManus said 41-year-old Jaime Gonzalez got into some kind of argument with 2 other drivers and then sometime later started firing multiple rounds from a shotgun into the air.
That's when Chief McManus said that Gonzalez pointed the shotgun at those officers. Those 5 officers fired, killing Gonzalez. According to records obtained by KSAT, there have been 7 calls for service this year to Gonzalez's home on Cherry Street. Let's take a look at traffic here. We're going to give you a view from I-35 at Alamo. You can see we got a lot of construction going on there. Definitely part of the backup here. Traffic not going anywhere right now because of all those cones you see there. Traffic making its way around all this issue here at 35 at Alamo.
All right, so take a look here. This is what millions of Texas public school students saw when they walked into their classrooms today. Posters or signs of the 10 Commandments. Now, the poster you saw there with the rainbow colors was in classrooms all over the South San Independent School District. The state law requiring all public school classrooms in the state to display the 10 Commandments went into effect yesterday, but not everyone is on board. Opponents argue that the display violates the First Amendment, but supporters argue that it will promote good behavior among students. South San Superintendent Dr. Saul Hinojosa told us he does not want the controversy over the law to overshadow the district's main purpose.
My focus right now is on educating students and building capacity with their teachers to make sure that our district performs where it should be and where it needs to be.
Now, not all school districts in Texas have to follow the new law. 11 districts do not have to post the religious document in their classrooms after parents in those districts successfully sued and got an injunction from a federal judge.
So there are multiple new laws that took effect yesterday, and among them are several that aim to improve water quality in Texas. Our Courtney Friedman has a close connection to 2 of them. Here she is to explain.
Yeah, 2 of those laws were actually based on a KSAT investigation. Last year, I spent over 6 months investigating a private water company that was providing brown and overly chlorinated water to several small Wilson County communities. Those stories, in addition to neighbors' complaints, caught the attention of Senator Judith Safrini. She sponsored several bills, and 2 of those became law. Senate Bill 1662 holds water companies more accountable. It addresses situations where the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ, is called to investigate a water company after a customer complains. The law says TCEQ cannot give a company more than 24 hours notice before it tests the water. That is so the company does not have a bunch of time to clean up the water before it's tested. The second law, Senate Bill 1663, empowers water customers with more information. The law requires companies and TCEQ to alert people sooner if their water is contaminated. These bills are a direct result of the original situation in the Arrowhead subdivision that prompted our very first story. There was E. coli in their water supply distribution system for 4 days before they were notified, and TCEQ gave the company 9 days notice before they came to test the water. So the neighbors themselves have fought really hard for these new laws to be passed, and right now they're working to push even more legislation for the upcoming session. So that's all to make water safer for people across the entire state. We, of course, will be staying up to date on that fight. To see any of my previous stories on this topic, head to KSAT.com and search Dirty Water Investigation. At the bottom of every story are links to the other stories. Back to you.
All right, Courtney, thank you. Outside live cam on this Tuesday evening, 97 degrees outside, plenty of heat to talk about. Adam will be by shortly to break that down and look ahead of the weekend and potential rain chances. So stand by for that here in just a few minutes.
You know, it's been nearly 2 months since the deadly Hill Country flooding now, and one of the people whose stories we first shared in those first few days was singer-songwriter Julia Hatfield.
Yeah, so she and her husband barely escaped out of their RV at the Blue Oak RV Park in Ingram before it got swept away. So that interview on social media actually went viral, with many commenting on Hatfield's strength and composure.
Erica Hernandez caught up with Hatfield once again as she returned to that same RV park.
Our RV was right here. Right here, yep.
And y'all were kind of one of the ones that were higher up, right? Because this was full.
Yeah. In fact, when we had moved in, I had asked about flooding, and they said they hadn't had water come up past this point before. And so even the night of, watching the water rise, something in you just is kind of in the state of denial. And I kept thinking, the water has to stop. The water has to stop. And that became evident pretty quickly that that wasn't the case. I mean, it was rising a foot or two a minute.
What are the emotions going through you right now?
Definitely some anxiety. I don't think I anticipated there's just a lot of trauma surrounding something like this. Yeah. There used to be a whole barn right here.
Okay.
A workshop that those cabins started floating over, and I'll never forget that. That guy was just standing on the front porch of the rental cabin. There was just no way to get to him. There was no way for him to get off and get to safety. And
things you'll never forget seeing.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I keep telling people, between the sights, the sounds, the smells, it's definitely a visceral experience.
Seeing the river now, how do you feel toward it?
I started writing a song about this called Mother Nature. Sometimes it seems like you and I are strangers. One moment you mean life, the next you mean danger. I thought I was someone you told your secrets to. And that's how it felt, being on the river every day, just going kayaking. And, it's just being in nature like that, and then to be so blindsided. It definitely has given me a respect for the power of water.
The day I saw you, I still don't think anything had hit as far as the reality. I think everything, but I was so struck by your composure of like, I lost my home, but I'm here to help.
That's how I was raised. Mom and Dad, we live in a divisive time, and the world would have you think that everybody's against each other, and leave it to something like this to be what brings people together, but to show that much love and that much support. It makes me proud to be a Texan.
That was our Erica Hernandez reporting. Still ahead here on the news at 6, we are staying in the Hill Country, where survivors of the flood hope they're not being forgotten. After the break, we'll introduce you to a family that knows this recovery won't be quick.
Don't forget about us. That is the message from Lifelong Comfort locals whose July 4th flood stories have not been told yet.
They know flood recovery takes a long time because they've been through it before. They lived through the flood of 1978. One woman who depends on an oxygen tank told Courtney Friedman how she felt on July 4th, watching the water as it approached her home.
This is beautiful. But on July 4th, Barbara and C. Daniel Zeller's peaceful yard in Comfort was flooded with water from the Guadalupe River below them. And you're on a really high incline here.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's high. It was, I think the most frightening part was that it came so fast, and was just all the stuff it was carrying with it. Was really scary. And then the fire department came by and told us we had to evacuate.
Was that so scary for you? Because I know that you're on oxygen.
Had to pack up my oxygen.
Also stressful because they'd been through this before in the 1978 flood.
In 78, we had 2.5 feet inside the house.
That's how far the water made it? Yeah. Luckily, this time the river stopped rising just 10 feet from their home. But not everyone was so lucky.
I've lived in Comfort all my life, but I've worked in Kerrville for 40 years, over 40 years. So to all of a sudden see names start popping up that lost their lives, and those were people that I knew, that it was difficult.
So what does this place mean to you?
I mean, it's my world.
While Donna Spencer's town has suffered so much pain, they've also shown true grit.
If it's cooking meals for someone, if it's helping someone with their laundry, if it's helping someone just clean out and rebuild, everybody has their strengths.
And Donna said they'll have to use those strengths for a long time.
This is going to be a long recovery. I want to make sure that people just don't forget that there's a lot of people that are still going through a very, very difficult time.
But with continued support, acknowledgement, and love, healing is possible. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Ever since July 4th, anytime we've got significant rain chances in the forecast, people definitely more aware, more sensitive to that.
I was there on August 4th, the 1 month anniversary, when some storms were coming in, and I vividly remember my phone went off, and a lady in the area turned to me and she goes, "Is that weather?" I mean, they were so still, as you would
understandably
totally understand.
Yeah.
Still get a little anxious when there's weather in the area.
And it's going to be that way for years, understandably so. That's the psychology related to weather events. It impacts your whole, the rest of your life for many of these cases. And so we do have another chance for heavy rainfall. right? And it's going to be this upcoming weekend. And I'm not ruling out flooding because I do think flooding is possible. If everything stays on track the way it's going, flash flooding, meaning like street flooding and impact to travel, I think would be pretty likely at some point over the weekend. Right now, odds would favor Sunday, but we have the 40% chance Saturday and up to 60% chance on Sunday, and then even lingering into Monday, the potential for scattered activity. Here's what we're watching. It's the new tropical storm, Lorena. This is that same cluster of storms that we were talking about over the past few days, and now it's organized into a tropical storm. It's a weak system, but it's going to be heading into the Baja Peninsula by Friday as a Cat 1 or a tropical storm. It's not going to be a strong system, but remember, just regardless of strength, these have a lot of moisture and leftover rain-making energy. And as the remnants move into Texas, we'll be tracking the rain-making energy, the deep tropical moisture, the exact timing, and of course location for the heaviest downpours. That's still to be determined. That is something that you can really only get to closer to the actual time frame as the event nears. We're still too far away for the exact specifics, but the coverage of rainfall is likely to be pretty significant across Texas. Most of Texas getting in on some heavy rain and pockets of flash flooding and even the chance of some river flooding can't be ruled out. So again, sometime over the weekend, that's the best we can tell you right now. With the latest guidance, which will change, it will change, I promise you that. The latest guidance is more so late Saturday night and then into Sunday. As for accumulations, it's not going to be equal opportunity. Never is around here. But I think, could very well see 5 inches or more in some bullseyes. You know how you get those localized areas? Sometimes it's 10 miles away, sometimes it's overhead. We could easily have 5 or more inches. Of course, it's the rain lottery, as we call it, when it comes to where the heaviest rain sets up. Yesterday, for example, a matter of 10 miles was the difference of 5 inches of rain compared to practically nothing. Primary impact, flash flooding, street flooding, impact to travel, low water crossings, that kind of thing we'll be watching, especially late Saturday and through Sunday. But keep in mind, we need the rain. Look at the drought monitor, and especially right here in San Antonio and Medina County, Divine, Natalia, Lytle, still unfortunately in that exceptional drought area. This is where a lot of the July rain missed. And as for the state, we still could use it in West Texas and in our neck of the woods. It's just obviously we don't like the side effects that we get from it, including the flooding potential. Temperature-wise, near 100 the rest of this work week, likely dropping down into the mid-80s by Sunday with those elevated rain chances. Today we made it to 97, so a little above our average by 4 degrees, but not near the record of 104, so we have that going for us. 96 right now, a dew point of 57. Yeah, dewies are low. These afternoon dew points down in the 50s, at times maybe even 40s. So yes, some heat, but not the humidity. Right now, temperature-wise, we're under 100 everywhere except for Laredo. Congratulations, triple digits. Otherwise, 99 Cotulla, Carrizo Springs, and Eagle Pass, but Kerrville, meanwhile, at 91. Tomorrow, we're forecasting 99. We could very well, obviously, hit 100 officially, triple digits. We've had 19 triple-digit days so far. I do anticipate our 20th this week officially at the airport, but regardless of the airport, surrounding areas will be hitting 100 tomorrow. It's the weekend. Check back in for updates. Don't cancel or modify your plans yet because we need to get into the time frame of more specifics. And hey, quick reminder, we have the 2nd annual Texas Eats Food Festival, September 20th, Boeing Techport Center. Buy tickets, scan the QR code. There's going to be 20 top restaurants. And here's the cool thing. You pay the fee to get in, and then everything's covered. You know, it's not just nickel and diamond yet, every booth.
Yeah.
You're set.
It's in air conditioning.
That's the key, too.
It's a big plus.
Like David Elder, like I say, eat like David Elder.
Music?
All of the above. Fantastic stuff. Okay. All right, so maybe a little storm action over the weekend, but we know the weather will not be an issue in the Alamo Dome. It's always 72 degrees, I believe. Larry,
yeah, heck yeah. It's nice conditions inside the Alamo Dome. Always perfect for a UTSA football game. And this Saturday, they are taking on Texas State. And coming up, Jeff Traylor tossed out a stat about Texas State's O-line that shocked me, to be honest. And in high school football, Brennan won a thrilling game of the week right out of the gate. We got it coming up.
What we've talked about is if somebody has to get you fired up to play hard this week, then this isn't the week the head coach should have to use any motivational tricks. If you do, you got the wrong team.
Yeah, Coach Traylor says facing Texas State should provide all the motivation for his guys in big board sports. UTSA's home winning streak will be on the line when they host Texas State Saturday afternoon. This is a week that many in the area have been waiting for, that's for sure. The Roadrunners are riding a record-tying 10-game home winning streak. Now, the Roadrunners lead the all-time series with Texas State 5-1, including a 3-0 mark in games played at the Alamo Dome. Last season in San Marcos, the Bobcats hammered the Roadrunners 49-10 for their first win in the series. The Bobcats are 1-0 this season, the Roadrunners 0-1, and Coach Traylor knows that beating the Bobcats will not be easy.
Obviously, they rushed for 400 yards. They have the largest offensive line in the country. A&M had the second largest in the country, so that's a pretty fascinating stat. 1 and 11 are very dynamic at receiver. The quarterback's a little dealer. Reminds me of a little young G.J. Kinney when I watch him. He can run it, he can throw it. And that's, G.J.'s been doing that for a long time to people, that offense. Number 5 in the country last year. They totally embarrassed us last year. We couldn't stop their passing game or their running game. They did whatever they wanted to us last year.
And the Bobcats did whatever they wanted in their season opener, thrashing Eastern Michigan 52-27. Texas State had 606 yards of total offense with 392 of that on the ground. Head coach G.J. Kinney said it's still a little weird to face his former high school coach and Jeff Traylor.
Definitely different for sure. It doesn't really, the week leading up to it, and you get the questions and all that, and then you go out on the really pregame warm up. Even then, it's like, all right, you're seeing your buddy, all that kind of good stuff. And then the game hits, and he's like standing across from you, and you're staring at each other. Like, this is kind of weird, But besides that, obviously, everyone knows how much I care about Coach and the respect that I got for him, his program, and it's not just Jeff either. You know what I'm saying? It's Kurt. All right, it's Coach Lupp. They got tons of guys over there that I played for.
Now in their 15th season to play, the Roadrunners will play the 174th game in program history on Saturday when they face Texas State at 2:30 p.m. at the Alamo Dome. Our first game of the week in big game coverage this season saw the Brennan Bears edge out the Reagan Rattlers 21-13. Bears quarterback Hayden Glass scored on this run to make it 21-6 late in the third. Now the outcome was just a little too close for Coach Bazor.
It was highly competitive, highly physical, grinder. One score game with a 2-point conversion could tie it up. So, we missed a field goal, which kind of would have helped us a lot. But again, both teams battled really hard. I'm glad that we pulled it out in the end, but I was a little nervous.
I mean, this is a huge win. If you've been keeping up with Brennan football, you know that we haven't won a first game in 3 years. That's a big time stat. So to come out here and open the season up strong, it means a lot.
Brennan will next face Smithson Valley, and Reagan will play at Steele. Piper and Johnson is our next game of the week, and you can find that preview right now online on the BGC page at KSAT.com.
Some big matchups there.
Yeah.
Okay. Heck yeah, Larry. Thank you, sir.
All right, coming up next, Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones joins us here in the studio for our KSAT Q&A.
All right, welcome back on this Tuesday, bottom of the hour. As is the case on Tuesdays around here, we have our KSAT Q&A with the Honorable Mayor of San Antonio, Gina Ortiz-Jones.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Good to be with you always.
Appreciate it. I'm going to start with Project Marvel. Yesterday, we covered a rally where a lot of community members got together and said, hey, we want to see a stronger community benefits agreement between the Spurs and the city. You've talked a lot about wanting to see that as well. So the Spurs are saying, hey, city, we will give you X number of dollars. And is it up to the city council then to decide what projects, where you put that money?
Yeah, so I mean, first off, I think it's important that as we go into this, we do look at how we can best support community needs and make sure it's reflective of what all the community wants, right? Not just one part of town. So, what that ultimately looks like, we'll work together to make sure that it's reflective of community needs and ensure, again, as you have heard me say, though, I would still very much like revenue sharing. And I can't not think about this in light of the budget We're in the budget season right now, and it's always about how can we help ourselves? How do we pay for more cops? How do we pay for more fire? How do we pay for more police? It's through additional revenue streams, and those ticket sales, those concessions, those naming rights, those are all the most lucrative aspects of those deals. So I will continue to work with my colleagues to figure out how we might be able to, strengthen those. And the community benefits, those again are nice to have, but I think, as I was talking to a friend of mine, my approach to this is, when they get theirs, we get ours. That's what revenue sharing is about.
Yeah.
Yep.
You touched on the budget, which it's a little more than 2 weeks away from being voted on, and you mentioned the round of budget town halls that each district hosted. Yeah. Those are now done, and you were able to go to a number of those.
Yes.
What were some of the takeaways, just being there and hearing directly from the constituents? What were some of the bigger takeaways?
Well, first of all, let me express my thanks to all of our neighbors that showed up. There were 10, and then certainly there was the youth town hall, very much appreciated from hearing from them as they were hosted at the Central Library. And they had a little bit of a different exercise, which is, what does San Antonio look like in 20 years for you? And I was very much struck by, our youth that are looking for, many of their comments were not only about physical structures, but about their understanding of opportunities that were available to them. And what that, I think, speaks to is, how are we addressing some of the foundational challenges in our community that allow for greater access to opportunity? So, one of those things that I think has borne itself out is the need for us as a city council to really understand how can we help ourselves in terms of things like educational opportunities, right? The things that are so foundational to our productivity, but our long-term economic strength. So I'm thankful for those folks that have provided feedback. The budget is still far from done. We still have, we'll just call some horse trading to do, right? Some folks would like many more cops. One of the things I'm kind of in the back of my mind, as you all have heard me say, I'm very concerned about how the implementation of some of the cuts at the federal level will be seen in our community. So how can we help ourselves, in particular in areas like public health? Right. So I have asked, what would a 20% plus up in Metro Health look like, understanding that much of their funding is from federal grants, which will go away. It's not if, it's when. And public health, we know, as we all very much remember COVID, right? As soon as that is out of control, it is very, very hard to adjust, especially as the county and some of our other stakeholders are also losing their funding. So public health is an area where I think we need to be strategic and resilient.
We know in covering some of those budget town halls that Project Marvel came up in those conversations. Understandably, it's the highest profile thing happening within the city right now. Are you, with now us being 2 months out from Election Day, right? The county's portion, that $311 million going before voters in November. Do you plan on taking a public stance on that, whether you support that measure?
So I've been very clear. The measure that I support is, if you pay twice, you should vote twice. I've said that, right? Because when you vote on the 311, if you live in the city, you're not just paying, $489, because you also live in the county, which means you're also paying 311, which means if you are a city voter, you are actually on the hook for $800 million of the $1.3 billion stadium. I think, this has obviously moved very fast, and I think it's really important we have a strong public campaign that helps people understand not only the contours of the costs around the arena, but as I was sharing with you all earlier, there are other bills associated with this, right? Which is why I've been so focused on how do we look at shoring up some of the other bills, whether we look at revenue sharing to help our general fund, but also the bond. One of the things that came out in our budget meetings last week is, based on the economic environment and based on what's happening with property taxes, the bond that we do every 5 years, if it were to increase at the same rate that it had traditionally, we would be looking at a $1.9 billion bond. We are not. Our bond capacity, $500 million. Now, to give you some context in terms of what that could pay for, as you've heard me talk about, there are 14 city projects on the state's flood plan. 14 projects totaling $411. So if we don't get any help from the state to pay for those flood projects, and if we decided to do all of those as a council, pay for all of those, that doesn't give a lot. That's 89 million left for other things. And then it's like, okay, see you in 5 years. So we have to have some tough discussions about how do we best allocate that? Because again, there is a portion of the downtown development that does require infrastructure related bonds. So what's the right number, as we also look at flood projects, as we also look at other infrastructure projects in our community?
And that's a great transition to what we're seeing on the screen right now, with flooding obviously being very top of mind in this community. And where there are rain chances again this weekend.
Yeah.
We've just lost a couple of San Antonians in recent days due to flooding. And you said you're taking action in terms of just trying to get some results as it relates to flood relief.
Well, those 14 projects, I mean, so we will try to address some of those in the budget, in the 26 budget. I think, though, we've got to walk and chew gum, and we do owe it to our community to say, hey, how are we addressing these things, many of which have been longstanding, especially if we're not going to get any help from the state. So what I'm going to do over the next kind of week and a half is tour each of those 14 sites in our community. 14 sites, $411 million. I look forward to doing that with my council members, and then us having a discussion with the community about, do we put all of these on how do we address these things, and what's the right tempo, again, in light of the other things. But I think I'm really, again, my heart goes out to the 2 neighbors that we lost in our community due to the flooding, and we have to move forward on this and give people an idea of what we're going to do to help ourselves.
You know, that was in the area 410 I-35, not far from the video you were just seeing there of the damage caused mid-June along Vital Creek. Same general area. We know that the city launched an investigation into what happened along Vital Creek that led to 13 deaths. We haven't seen that report yet, but do you know of anything that has happened in that area specifically to try to mitigate the risk?
Yeah, and that's forthcoming. I think as some of the flood projects identified in the budget, in the 26 budget, will address some of that proposed. And so again, we've got to make sure that if we'd like to include more of that in the budget, that we do so in light of, as you identify, kind of the persistent challenges and safety concerns.
Yeah, figuring out how to stretch those dollars, what it comes down to. All right, Mayor, we always appreciate your time.
Thank
you
you all.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Oh, hey. Congratulations to my John Jay Mustangs for beating Holmes. Beating Holmes. I know y'all didn't highlight them, but I'll highlight you. They won. This is the 4th year in a row my Mustangs beat the Holmes, 28-14. Number 5, congrats. I saw that like 70-yard run back too. It was
my
good.
goodness.
It was good.
I think Larry had you covered
watch
on
out,
Friday.
Larry.
Yeah, Larry had you covered on Friday. All right, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right
I also
back.
said we have an opening in the sports department right now, as a matter of fact. All right, we're back, and your nominations for the SA Picks 2025 contest are in. Thank you for that. We asked you to choose San Antonio's top businesses, and you came through in a big way.
So now you can scan the QR code to see the finalists and put your votes in by September 20th. Plus, you can vote for each category once a day. We'll announce the winners later on this month.
Okay, back outside to look at live cam on this Tuesday. And Adam Caskey, you were talking about the Deweys earlier?
Yeah, the Deweys.
Okay.
Short for Dew
Kinda
Point.
nice.
I mean, it does feel good. At least earlier it felt good outside.
And sometimes I can't help it. You got to give the little jig to it, you know. The little,
There's like a Dewey dance.
Yeah, like the Deweys are down.
Wow.
It just feels good because
Bite your lip and everything.
Stephanie always says I really mean it when I bite my lip. I never knew I did that until she pointed that out. Oh well. Looking at our rain chances, this weekend's what we're focusing on because of the tropical storm in the Pacific, the leftover energy from that. We're not going to get hit by a tropical storm, but the leftovers, the remnant moisture, rain-making energy. And we'll take a look at how much rain has fallen over the drought-stricken parts of our area in just a bit.
All right, we talked about the Deweys being down, but we also know we got a drought to deal with as well. So we're really eyeing those rain chances.
Dewey's down, drought dealing with.
Oh, this is
downtown.
Too much alliteration.
Never enough.
Let's have some fun with it, right? Okay, so I do want to point out the latest drought situation. It's West Texas, all the way along the Rio Grande, and then here in our neck of the woods where we have some of the worst drought still in the state of Texas. And we still do need rainfall, not just for the drought monitor, but also to fill up the aquifers and really get the stream flows back and the spring flows back where they should be this time of year. So I outlined the worst drought areas. That's the orange, red, and dark red, I guess. Sorry,
Crimson? I don't know.
Crimson. There we go. See, it's teamwork. Love it. And the crimson. It sounds so fancy that way.
Go Bob Ross painting.
Yeah. The not so happy crimson color.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't want that. Anyway, let's talk about how much rain fell on those areas just over the past several days. And this is actually over the past 5 days. And the yellow indicates at least 2 inches, and that's across a good chunk of Bexar County. The orange is about 3 to 4 inches. And I saw radar estimates near Elmendorf just from Sunday alone of 4.9 inches. So we did have some decent rainfall that should put a little bit of a dent in that drought monitor. We'll see what happens on Thursday morning when it's updated. Justin Horn, or J-Ho the weather bro, as we like to call him around here, he'll have the latest. It's an endearing thing. We love J-Ho. So notice Saturday 40%, Sunday we're up to 60%, and then at Monday we're still at 40%. So right now, if things were to just stay exactly how it looks, which it won't, it never does meteorologically speaking, okay, I can promise you that. But right now it would be the heaviest rain Saturday night into Sunday. There's going to be some fluctuation in timing and even location. It's not a slam dunk for us, but I think it's increasingly likely as we see this system develop and looking at the forecast path of Tropical Storm Lorena out in the Pacific, crossing over the Baja Peninsula, and then the remnants, the leftovers. So we're talking leftover rain-making energy, leftover moisture in the air. Now, we don't get the ground moisture, the low-level mugginess from these systems, because the higher elevations in Mexico, that squeezes all of it out, right? It squeezes it out in the form of rain, but we get the upper-level moisture that gets up and over the mountains, and that should super saturate our atmosphere, leading to the potential for flash flooding, street flooding, travel impacts, low water crossings being impacted at some point over the weekend. Exact timing, of course, it's way too early to tell meteorologically speaking. How much? I think we could very well see bullseyes of over 5 inches of rain in a short period of time. And that's why one of the primary impacts will be the flash flooding potential. Of course, where? It's the rain lottery. We all know it's not equal opportunity. Sometimes just a matter of 4 miles is the difference of 6 or 7 inches of rainfall. That's something that we can only hone in on as the time gets closer. Now, here's a look at the big picture. I want to point this out because we have fall-like conditions in the eastern 2/3 of the country. Look at Detroit at 73, Chicago 75, Nashville 75, DC 73. Big old dip in the upper level flow in the eastern 2/3 of the country, but the west is the opposite. That's where the heat high is. That's where the ridge is. That's why Boise, Idaho, beautiful city, by the way. If you haven't been, a great city. 99 degrees. I was weather conference there. Very, 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 just, you could honestly smell the roses from the rose garden, like, in the area. Anyway, I get off on tangents. So what I'm saying is, tale of two different seasons going on. West Coast, above average, eastern half of the country, below average. We're just right in the middle, right? 96. Right now at the airport, 95 Castroville, 96 Seguin. Temperatures falling down into the 80s, 10 o'clock 86, midnight right at 80. And tomorrow we make it back into the upper 90s, wall-to-wall sunshine, more of the same, or what I like to say, ho-hum the next couple of days. Then it's the weekend, of course, we're focusing in on.
Those Boise weather conferences.
Yeah.
Oh, they're crazy, let me tell you.
Beautiful this time of year.
What happens in Boise stays in Boise.
All right.
Except for the knowledge. I mean, I learned some good stuff there.
Oh, yeah. We all benefit from that. Thanks, Gasky. All right, let's take a look at what's coming up tonight on ABC's Prime Time from 7 to 9. It is Bachelor in Paradise, or BIP.
BIP.
As
Yes.
Kasky has taught us. All kinds of knowledge that guy's got. At 9,
Knowledge
it is
bombs.
high potential. Then join us right back here on the Night Beat at 10.
Top of the hour, just a few minutes away. KSAT Sports now, of course, in football is now officially in the fold, in the mix.
Absolutely. It starts at 7. Let's go to Larry, who is in the newsroom with what is on tap for tonight. Hey, Larry.
Yes, it's football all the time right now. So we're going to be talking about UTSA getting ready to host Texas State football this Saturday at the Alamo Dome. We're going to hear from Coach Traylor and Coach Kinney out from Texas State. And I'm sure most people know that Coach Traylor coached Kinney back in Gilmer in high school. So that's always a cool dynamic when these two face. We're also talking big game coverage. Week 1 is in the books, so we're talking week 2, a little preview, but we're going to go back to week 1 as well and show you the best of big game coverage. And some of the categories include best game, best run, best catch, and the best fans. So we'll show you who won in those categories. And the NFL kicks off on Thursday with the Dallas Cowboys visiting the Philadelphia Eagles. What a way to kick off the 2025 season. The boys at the reigning Super Bowl champs. And we're also going to talk about the Houston Texans, who are getting ready to open up their season on Sunday in Los Angeles against the LA Rams at SoFi Stadium. So stay there. We've got a lot for you on KSAT Sports Now, coming up at 7 o'clock on KSAT Plus. We'll be right back.
All right, pretty quiet on the roads here as we show you the traffic here. I mean, barrels, of course. We see barrels all the time. So that's
They blend in.
nothing unusual. Part of the landscape.
Thanks so much for watching the news at 6.
We'll see you tonight for the Night Beat.